good to be seen. And as they say here in Naples, better to be seen than viewed, because when you're viewed, you are in a casket most likely. So
I have not heard that one before.
Yeah, you hear that a lot down here, some of the older folks. Anyway, so everybody, thank you for joining. This is episode number 120 of Tech Sales Insights, brought to you by Sales Community. For those of you that are members, thank you very much. For those that are not, you can go to salescommunity.com and you can click on Spring Free. And Tucker will probably also post the link in here as well. And as always, Tucker's behind the scenes. So Tucker, thanks for all your help organizing this. We're also sponsored today by DecisionLink, the value selling sponsor to Sales Community. So if you think about, everybody does these, slides and all this techno mumbo jumbo around selling and why somebody should buy from you. But, ultimately, it's really what's the value. And as I like to say, if you're talking to the CFO, what's the value in terms of numbers, in terms of revenue, in terms of cost savings, other things that may be important. So DecisionLink does a great job with their platform, helping companies there. So we have Rohan Sampath today. He's co-founder and CEO of Copilot. And the title topic is AI and the Future of Tech Sales. So should be a great one for sure. Full disclosure, I guess I'm an investor through MEDDIC. Then I forgot, did I actually also invest personally? I should know.
I think you did, yes.
I did a little bit. Yeah. So I've known him probably just over 2 years since he kind of started the company. Has so a lot of great kind of ideas, has had some pivots and kind of morphing it. And I think now certainly with AI, certainly poised to take off, but certainly always impressed with his engagement, his personality, his work ethic. And follow up. So look forward to your success for sure.
Thank you, Randy. You're too kind.
And you kind of go between Vancouver and the Bay Area. So some pretty cool spots there. And besides work, you also have interest in skiing, a lot of outdoors activities, road biking, and election modeling. So yes. If we just digress for a sec without talking politics one way or another, just maybe tell the audience about election modeling and that word that I can't pronounce.
Yeah, so it's called psephology. It's the science of predicting and modeling elections. And I don't know when I started getting involved in this, probably around 2012, 13 when I was in college. So think of it as what Nate Silver does, but obviously that's not my full-time job. It's a hobby more than anything else. What I find interesting about it is obviously there's a lot of predictions on sports games and batting averages for baseball, all these things, analytics around what's likely to happen. But if you think about elections, those are some of the most consequential events in any country's progress, right?
Sure. Right.
But you also don't have enough data. Like a baseball team plays 162 games and everyone's batting so many times. So you have a lot of data to feed your model. Elections happen once every 4 years or 2 years or 5 years, whatever it is, depending on the country. So you have to make predictions that are incredibly consequential without having a lot of data. So that's what I enjoy about it.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And then CJ, you're Amity's one of your venture investors. So CJ said you're a gigabrain, highest score ever in the India standardized test. And I'll embarrass you, but that's probably a pretty good Freddie Mercury lookalike there. So that's what CJ and Peter sent. And I guess it's the equivalent of the SAT scores. I know you don't want to have me say anything, but it was like one of the all-time highest score, 100% in 3 of the categories and overall 99.5%. So obviously you were a brainiac way back when. So now you just you're applying it to try and monetize it.
You're too kind, Randy. One of the things I like to say is, this was obviously when I was 17. And I want to be obviously remembered for a lot more than being a higher scorer at the age of 17. So that's part of many other things that motivate me.
All right, awesome. And then speaking of which,
a quick shout out to CJ and Peter and the entire Amity team. I'm actually in their offices right now. They've been incredible partners through the ride.
Awesome. Great. So they're not just money, but they actually help you with the advice and feedback in a good way as well.
100%.
All right. Awesome. So you were born in India, but you actually grew up in Dubai. So that had to be interesting.
Very interesting. Dubai is one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. You have, people from 100 nationalities. I think Dubai might be the place in the world with the smallest proportion of citizens. So only about 10 or 15% of Dubai is actually citizens of the country. So you get a lot of exposure to different nationalities and different cultures and all that. Great place to grow up.
Oh, very cool. So at Stanford, you only got three degrees?
Yeah, I was a slacker. I was going for 5 or 6, I guess. No, I'm kidding. 3 is plenty.
That's awesome. But then your first job after that was McKinsey.
That's right.
So maybe to tell us about that, and then briefly your what you did after McKinsey.
Yeah. So at McKinsey, worked obviously with a lot of large tech companies. It was at McKinsey that I first was introduced to sales and marketing as it was at that time, about 5 years ago. So got a little bit of exposure to what the process of sales looks like, how do companies think about go-to-market, things of that nature. But had a fantastic time otherwise at McKinsey. Some of the smartest people, the most fun people to work with, working on really consequential things, like big mergers, really massive transformations. You get a sense of how businesses run, how the sausage is made behind the scenes.
Oh, awesome. And then from McKinsey, then what'd you do?
So my third degree was after that. I went back to do a master's in computer science, focused on AI and natural language processing, which is obviously very relevant now. So that's what I did afterwards. And I think a lot of where I am today is influenced by knowing about sales and marketing from McKinsey, and then learning even more and diving deep into natural language processing and artificial intelligence when I was back at Stanford, and putting those together to, as you said at the beginning, monetize it a little bit.
Awesome. And then after that, then what did you do?
Tried my hand at a couple of different companies, and then started Copilot. So
awesome. So why did you decide to start Copilot? How'd you start it?
Yeah. So I think thinking about my time at McKinsey, right, there was the sense I first got exposure to things like Gong and the other parts of the tech stack. And it occurred to me that there perhaps was a better way to figure out what's really happening on sales calls and deals, right? Yeah. And Gong in 2016 and continues to be the state of the art. We love Gong, by the way. If you want to know what happened on your calls, there's no better way than to actually listen to it. But when I was at Stanford, it was just emerging, the emergent properties of what you could do with large language models. So you don't just have to listen to the entire call. What if you could pull out insights? What if you could pull out things that are relevant to a sales conversation, to a sales methodology, so you have a better, faster, easier way of knowing what really happened in your deals than listening to the entire call? So really, I think it was about how can I apply some of these natural language processing innovations that are emergent to actually help drive efficiency and productivity for sales teams. That was basically the thesis behind starting Copilot.
Awesome. So why don't you tell everybody then what Copilot does?
Yeah. So Copilot uses large language models, that's the technology behind GPT, ChatGPT, etc., to draw out insights from your sales deals. And these insights can be tailored to your methodology. So it's not just generic summaries of what happened, but specific elements like if you use MEDDIC or Sandler or SPICE, winning by design, whatever it is, we can pull out from multiple conversations, hey, here are the pains that were discovered on the call. Here were the objections. Here were the questions asked. Here are next steps. Here's pricing information. Here's the champion. Here's the economic buyer, right? So really being able to condense hours of conversation into the essential elements of what goes into a deal review in the QBR, et cetera. That's what we do at Copilot.
Wow. So doesn't Gong already do a chunk of that?
It does a little bit of it. And I will say this, our customers, we think of ourselves as very complementary to Gong, right? I think there is no substitute for still having to listen to how it was said, what the body language is, the sentiment, et cetera.
Right.
But we basically make it easier. So you can read our summaries and our insights, and then we actually integrate and link with Gong and other providers, such as Chorus, et cetera. So you can read here's the pain that the prospect cares about, but then you can also go and listen to that specific snippet or summary within Gong. So we're very complementary to that.
Very cool. We love Gong. They're a revenue intelligence sponsor at Sales Community, so we might have to connect you guys up there. So now, kind of, how do you sell? Who do you sell to?
Yeah, so obviously we're a very young company, right? Even the technology that makes what we do possible has existed only for a few months. I'm sure a lot of the audience has seen, the explosion with ChatGPT and other models like that. So who we sell to, primarily to chief revenue officers, heads of sales. Right now we sell to companies between 5 sales reps on the low end to 100 at the high end. That's sort of the range of our customers. There's nothing inherent about anything larger than that. It's just that we want to make sure we get quick iterations and don't go through large sales cycles. So 5 to 100 reps, sell to CROs. In terms of the nature of companies, we primarily sell to tech companies. And that's not because our value is restricted to them. It's more that tech companies historically have been more likely to appreciate the value of AI and the ability for AI to actually drive productivity for their teams.
Gotcha. All right. And thanks, Phil, for asking the first question and for prompting me. So anybody watching along, definitely feel free to comment. Definitely ask any questions as we go here. And we got Tucker behind the scenes. We'll be pulling them up. So Phil, great to hear from you. Phil asked, what analytic tools do you use for reporting, visualization, AI, et cetera, Tableau, Power BI, ClickLooker, et cetera?
Yeah. So Phil, I'd love to know maybe a little bit more about the sort of use case and what kind of data you're trying to visualize. What I can speak to is what our customers use, right? I think Looker is one of the most popular ones out there. A lot of our customers use Looker. They take the data from Salesforce and put it in a nice Looker dashboard. Again, no endorsement. I have no ties with any of these companies. But that is, I think, one of the more common ones to visualize Salesforce data.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks, Phil, and feel free to ask any follow-up there. And Rohan, what up from a Copilot perspective? Any customer use case? You may or may not be able to mention the exact customer, but kind of how somebody's getting value from Copilot.
Yeah, I can probably mention one of our customers. They're Affinity. They're a CRM for venture capital and private equity. And so they have about 30 to 50 people on the go-to-market team. And one of the use cases that they've been getting value out of is being able to drive better one-on-ones, right, between the manager and the rep. One of the things that's really hard about a manager's job today is, you have 5 to 7 reps in your team. Each rep is doing a certain number of calls every day. Yeah. Now, ideally, you listen to every Gong call, right? And you still should listen to a lot of them, but you don't have the time. You have 50 other things to do. So what if you are able to see the summary generated by Copilot with insights around, pains, was the next step set up, how do they talk about pricing, et cetera? That can be the basis for your coaching, for your one-on-ones with your rep, right? It can also be how you help the rep figure out what to do next very quickly by reading that summary, reading the insights, reading the risk factors, things of that nature. So coaching and one-on-ones, one of the big value props that Affinity has been seeing.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. So they take their CRM, they sell them to the venture capital, private equity.
Correct. Exactly.
Very cool. So we have our title topic is AI in the future of tech sales. So certainly huge topic these days. So very, very, very timely for sure. So what's your take in terms of kind of what's being done today and kind of how do you see the future?
Yeah. So I'll maybe wind back a little bit to talk about the more general properties of large language models that I'm really excited about. And then I'll talk about how I think it's relevant for sales. So just for the audience, right? Large language models are things like ChatGPT, Bard by Google, Llama by Facebook. And the idea really is they have trained on so many millions and billions of parameters that they're really able to approximate what human conversation looks like. There are 4 things in particular that I'm very excited about that were not possible before and now are possible with these models. One is summarization. I'll tell you a fun story about summarization a little later. The second is around information extraction. So being able to take, this is obviously a lot of what we do as well, being able to take a massive amount of data and then take out the key insights based on a human level prompt. The third is around creativity. I know a lot of people love using, ChatGPT to generate an email, to generate a poem, to generate all sorts of creative things. It's amazing what it can do. And the fourth, and this is the thing that's really surprising to people, is reasoning. ChatGPT can write code. It can solve math problems, even relatively complex math problems. And so these are the four things that I'm excited about and how they can be applied in particular to sales. So.
Oh, very, very cool. So how do you see it kind of in the future?
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is, obviously we've been blown away by how good these models are already for these things. I think it's going to get a lot better in the future, but I also want to talk about what that means for sales teams, right? There's probably like 3 or 4 areas where I see these models really being applied in the context of a go-to-market motion. The first is around the top of funnel, right? So we can talk more about it, but it's around, automation of email writing, automation of sales calls. There's a lot you can do on the top of funnel with something like a GPT, and I know a lot of companies are already doing that.
So the second is around interesting one I didn't tell you when we were prepping, but I don't know if you heard of Humantech.
I have not.
Are you familiar with it?
No.
Oh, so it takes, I don't know if you're old enough to know the kind of DISC profile. So it's kind of how you profile people based on personality. And so a bunch of us had done that, years ago, but they actually take it and they can kind of organize it into a kind of org chart. So as you're selling, it'll give you feedback. So if I want to sell to you, you've got certain attributes, but on the email front, like you just said, we'll actually you can have an email. So if I'm sending you an email, if I'm trying to sell to you, then I'll say, okay, based on your personality profile, it will actually re-swizzle that actual email, which is
it's fantastic.
Mind-boggling. So you think
it's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, how it's going to help there on the top of funnel side. What about on the coaching side?
Yeah, so coaching is obviously one of the things that we're focused on at Copilot too. We're very excited about it in 2 ways. I think there are 2 big things that AI can do. One, it can make it easier for managers to find coaching moments. You don't have to dig through a massive transcript or whatever it is to find these moments, or have to listen onto the call. You can very quickly get suggestions on, here are moments where there was an opportunity for coaching. But then you can take it one step further, right? You can say, here is a moment that you could have coached the rep on, but here's also some areas that you could have coached the rep on. Here are suggestions for how, for example, the rep could have done discovery better, or asked different discovery questions, or talked about pricing in a different way. Mm-hmm. So it's both identifying the moments for better coaching, but also having suggestions for what you could have done better. So super excited about that. Super excited for what that means for managers and how it can sort of scale up their productivity.